Hi, everybody. Welcome to Hey Boo. I'm
Hello,
Jackie.
I'm Chrissy, the Listen Queen.
Hello, I'm Crystal.
How y'all doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good. What's up,
Crystal,
anyways?
are you doing better?
I'm still sick, but I'm kicking. I didn't get to do my hair or my makeup today. I just got through like feeding and watering all my damn chickens and just came in here. So, but other than that, I'm good.
Nothing wrong with that. I've come on here, no hair, no makeup done neither before.
First off, I want to say
Right.
happy birthday to Yvette because yesterday was her birthday. So I want to say happy birthday to Yvette. So happy birthday,
Happy
Yvette.
Happy
birthday,
birthday.
Yvette. Hope it was a good one.
Yep, I hope it was a good one.
You should have made
So,
your hubby take you out for dinner.
yeah, I know, huh?
I'm just saying.
But her puppy that she lost that passed away, he
Mhm.
got a picture and she got a big blanket. And you know how they write stuff on it like "mommy, I miss you" and stuff like that. You see it on TV or on Facebook a lot. She got one of those from him.
Hmm.
I said, "Oh, that's sweet."
That is sweet. That's very sweet.
Yes, very
Yeah,
sweet.
that's cool.
So let's go on with the show.
Hi, Eric.
So today we're talking about Randolph. I forgot.
Randolph County Asylum slash
Yeah,
Infirmary,
yeah, yeah.
which is located in Indiana, which
Yeah.
those who know me, I do live in the state of Indiana. Let's get some pictures going here so they can kind of see what we're talking about.
I didn't get to do a whole lot of research, but I did a little bit. I do know that it was built in the 1800s, and I believe, if I'm correct, the first one burnt down about 2 years after it was built. And then the one
It
I
did.
believe that stands today is the one that was built in was it 99 or 1890?
I'd have to look up the exact date, but you are correct. There were two structures. Um, they were built on the same land, but not in the same location, and I guess that can kind of be where we start. So this is the building as it stands now. Okay. So if you are actually standing at the back left side of that building, like at an angle, hi Beth, hi Kevin, um, you can
Hi,
actually
guys.
see the transition. So it's almost as if it's a, I don't know, time loop, time warp. I don't know how you want to explain it. But if you're standing in the correct position at an angle in the back corner of this building, as you're walking toward it, it transitions and it looks like the old building. And there's always a gentleman who's standing there
Oh,
who
neat.
appears to be in, 1800, 1900, early 1900 clothing. Um, so and I wasn't the only one who saw it. There were three other females with me, three other female investigators who were outside with me because we were actually outside because there was an unmarked cemetery as well. So that's where we were at originally. We were looking for that unmarked cemetery. Um, to pay our respects to those that were buried there. But so as we were walking back toward the building, I kept seeing the transition and I thought, this can't be, because at that point I didn't even know what the old building looked like. I knew that there was another building, but I didn't know what it looked like. And I knew that it wasn't in the exact position where this building was, but it was kind of to the left of it. So essentially, it was almost where we were standing as we were walking toward the building looking for those unmarked graves. Um, but this place is absolutely insanely active. Um, we've never gone there and not had activity happen as a team. And it
Hmm.
seems to always be something new or giving us further information or further interaction. Um, but it's definitely a place filled with pain and sorrow too. Um, back in the day, they used the building not only as what they called a poor farm or asylum, whatever. So
Hmm.
anybody whose family who basically didn't want them because they were had mental health issues or just couldn't take care of themselves, they would bring them here and drop them off and never come back. Um, for instance, there was a young girl who was dropped off, who suffered from, a little bit of mental illness, but nothing that would spark leaving her somewhere where, they didn't come back together. Um,
Well,
so
back in those times, a lot of people could be committed to a place like that just for being too emotional as a woman, or reading too many novels, or just any kind of thing back then. Also,
And it's funny you say that because there's actually a woman who her room is in the lower level section. And forgive me, her name is leaving my mind at this moment. But so she was committed there after they said she went insane. Her husband had cheated on her and had given her chlamydia. And she basically lost her mind. I mean, I don't think back in those days they typically tested for things like that or treated for things like that. But she ended up committing suicide there in that building. And they said that it was just because he never came back together, but he had her committed. And this was her husband, the love of her life. And
oh
he
yeah,
was the reason she got the
yeah.
STD. Um, so her name was Sarah, I believe. Um, and if you go down to her room, so there's a windowsill, where people will leave flowers, um, notes, anything just to pay their respects to her. But she definitely is a spirit that will interact with you. She's more keen to interact with females, on EVP sessions. She has shown herself in apparition form. But she typically doesn't show herself in apparition form unless you're talking females are there. So it seems as though she doesn't feel comfortable around men with what happened with her
Hmm.
husband and in the era that she grew up in. I mean, it makes sense because back in her day, you didn't
Oh
talk to other
yeah.
men. You know, you didn't interact with other men because it just wasn't something that was acceptable behavior. Um, but
Hmm.
and I want to say that she was in her 20s when she committed suicide. So tragic, tragic, tragic death. But back to the whole
Hmm.
the female child being dropped off. So she was dropped off there and she grew up there and she basically had nowhere to go because nobody ever came back to see her, to visit her, anything. So once she became an adult, they put her to work in the kitchen.
Wow.
So she became the cook and she lived there and died there, because she had nowhere else to go and she had no one who would claim her. So if you're in the kitchen area, which again is in the basement, she will interact with you readily. She likes to talk about food. She likes to talk about cooking. Um, People again leave things on. There's a big counter down there where she would do her cooking at, or prepping for cooking. There's flowers down there. There's pennies down there. There's cards down there. Um, a multitude of things that people have brought to give their respects to Doris. Her name was Doris. And her room, and I think I have. Let's see. I think I have pictures because she had a bunch of dolls because she grew up there. She was a little girl. I don't remember the exact age, but I want to say that she was probably 8 or 9 when she was dropped off.
Hmm.
So let's see. And let's see. Ricky Hellard has actually investigated there with me several times. And he hates dolls. So for me to put him in a room full of dolls was a bit
Oh, they
traumatic.
have dolls in that.
I, I found it fun.
They had dolls in that place.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for the kiddos that were there, absolutely.
Wow,
So I there's the photo, Jackie.
I got it.
Okay.
Oh wow.
So, so this is Doris's room, and even when she was an adult, I mean, her room remained like this,
Mm.
with the things that she had collected and accumulated while living there as a child. So they kept it as is. You can get a lot of EVPs in there, a lot of interaction. Um, I don't think there's nothing negative in there. The dolls aren't haunted. There's no crazy story like that, but you can feel Doris's energy. You can. You really can. Um, and she'll talk to you. She'll talk to you there, and she'll talk to you in the kitchen area. Um, I don't know. I may have. I thought I took one more. I had so many photos that I had to upload to be able to share for this, but so I kind of minimized everything that I uploaded. So this is Doris's room as well.
All right, I got
Jackie's like, I gotta hit the button.
it.
But that's an old timey little refrigerator, which I found
Yes.
Refrigerator.
extremely
Yeah.
interesting. I had never actually put my hands on one until I investigated here. I mean, you see them in pictures, but then
Hmm.
when you see them in person, you're like, wow, it's almost like a little dresser. And then you open the
Yes.
door and it's a little refrigerator.
Wow, that's
Um,
cool.
Yeah.
and I think she was one of the few people that had items like this in her room because everyone else there, it wasn't, it was their home, but it wasn't, she grew up there. It was her home. Then it became her job. Then it became her home and her job.
Yeah.
So her room is a little bit different than everyone else's. Um, but let's see. The This place had, let me show you how eerie it looks at night. Got another, hi Brian. You got another one to share, Jackie. Okay, so that's the front view of it at night. So like if you see the upstairs area, it
Uh-huh.
looks like a balcony type deal,
Yes.
and it is. You can
Hmm.
actually go out on that balcony, but when you go through those doors, that's housing quarters, for people who were staff at the time, where the doctors, the nurses, and another fun fact about this place is that it not only was the asylum, but it doubled as the jail.
Wow.
So the town and the county was so small and so poor that they didn't have the ability or capacity to have an actual jail built. So the sheriff at the time, who lived in a farmhouse right across the street from Randolph,
Mhm.
decided that it would be smart to go ahead and just put a holding jail cell in Randolph. So
Wow.
they did. So not only do you have people who are there and are mentally ill, you had people who were being housed before they went to court. So here's a
Now,
photo
did
of
it
the.
also house tuberculosis patients? I believe I read that also. Did it? Is that correct?
It it did for a while, not very long, because if I remember correctly, there was a huge tuberculosis hospital built in Ohio, and then also Waverly Hills. So when those big
Gotcha.
places became active, all the patients went to the bigger places to be treated, because there were
Now, how
doctors.
many rooms did this place actually have? I didn't read that part.
So there's 3 floors of rooms. Okay. Now, you've got rooms that you've got a chapel on each floor, okay, for praise and worship.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got what I call the day room or the activity room where everybody would convene.
Mm-hmm.
The floors are split in that um when you when you are going down the hall on the first floor, second floor, basement, whatever, it was
Mm-hmm.
always divided. So if you go in through the front of the building and you're heading down the halls, women's was always on the right, men's side was always on the left. So they divided them each way, right? But
Yeah.
then the common room or activity room was basically the end of the hall. The chapel was typically to the left on each floor. And they had common shower areas and restrooms. So there weren't restrooms. The only
Mm-hmm.
other place that there was a restroom was the jail cell. So the jail cell, you have that small jail cell, then you have basically a toilet. And then it looks like, which is it's closed off at this point, but it looks like it was connected to another room. But it's closed off.
Mm-hmm.
So and I count wise, I couldn't tell you, but what I can say is, so the location itself, the less people you have, the more active it gets. Um, we had this is probably the scariest place I've ever had a personal experience in. It was me, my team member Corey, and another paranormal investigator named Michael Diddy. So he's just a personal friend that was on another team that would investigate with us from time to time. So we had a larger group there earlier that night.
Mm-hmm.
More of his team, more of our team. Well, as the night dwindles, you guys know people get tired and they go home, right? Because it's the
Yes.
middle of the
Mm-hmm.
night.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this location
Right,
you can
right.
actually stay at and sleep all night. Well, so we had one other investigator, Rachel, who was there, but she was sleeping. She was sleeping in the front foyer room. So she was out for the count. She had like a 5 hour drive to go home. So it was me, Michael, and Corey. We went up to the second floor to the men's side, and we were standing in the hallway. And I think I have a picture. Let me see. We were standing in the hallway together, and yeah, there's a picture. Now this don't have what we actually saw because, of course, when you're snapping photos, it don't always get what you're seeing. So we were standing at the end of this hall, and you can't see it in this picture, but at the very dead end of that hall is that common room I was telling you about, like the day room, right? So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
as we're standing there, I'm seeing something moving. And it was moving from the ceiling down the wall to the floor. And then it would disappear. And then it would get closer. And it would do the ceiling, the wall, the floor.
Wow.
And I was seeing it, Corey was seeing it, but Michael was not seeing it. So I guess to put it into perspective, so I'm on the left, Michael is in the middle, Corey is on the right. Now in this picture, you can see that there's those rail things there, right? So those are bolted to these concrete walls. Okay. So they're pretty sturdy, or you would think. So we're standing there and we're trying to just be quiet and just be still. Well, so we're wondering why we're seeing it and Michael's not, because it kept getting closer and closer and closer. So finally, I said, well, let's do this. I said, let's switch spots and maybe if it's your angle because you're not seeing it. So we swapped spots. So I swapped Diddy. He went over to the side. I went into the middle, and then Corey remained on the right hand side.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as soon as we did that, he saw it, but then it disappeared. I mean,
Oh.
it gave him just like a split second of being there, and it disappeared. So
Mm-hmm.
then we're all just standing there and waiting and silently waiting and silently waiting. And Michael said, "You know, I don't feel so good about this." And I said, yeah, it's kind of eerie. So as we're saying this, having this whole conversation, it appears again. And at this point, it's literally crawling on the ceiling toward us.
Wow.
So and again, it goes from the ceiling down the wall and it basically disappears into the floor. So we're still standing there, still standing there. And Michael, I don't remember exactly what it was he said, but we all kind of shifted 2 steps over
Mhm.
and 1 step forward. Well, when we did that, here it came again. And when it came this time, it was right at, so you can see where that room, where that's a room right there where the
Yeah.
wooden handle ends.
Mhm.
So that's a room. So it came up, it came right in front of Michael's face and then disappeared.
Wow.
Well, no
Ooh.
sooner than it did that, it did it again, but it came up through the floor, up in front of him, up through the right side of my body, which felt like fire, and
Wow.
then back down into the floor in front of Corey. At that point, I said, we're done. We're going downstairs.
Yes.
This is not something positive. Um, yeah. So Michael looked at Corey, and Corey told Michael, he said, if Chrissy says it's time, then it's time. He said, I trust her instinct. So we all turned, but as we turned, that wooden thing on the wall came off the wall. Nobody was touching it.
Oh,
Nobody was
man.
touching it. Nobody had their hand on it. Nobody had been leaning on it, but it came off the wall. So we go downstairs. At this point, Rachel is still sleeping. We let her sleep. Michael packed up his stuff and he left. Well, Corey decided that he needed to do his final walkthrough of the night, which we always do. We make sure everything's off, doors are closed that need to be closed, nobody left any equipment behind, the usual. Well, so there's a front room that when you walk in the building, that's basically like it would have been the reception area when it was the infirmary. So there's still a desk that sits there. Well, behind the desk is 2 doors. One door, hi, one door is the women's side, the other side is the men's side. So depending upon what door you choose, is what side of the building you're going to enter and go down.
Mhm.
Now, mind you, at this point, it's like 7:45 in the morning. So it's broad daylight. Broad daylight. Well, so Corey didn't take a flashlight because why would you need a flashlight when it's broad daylight, right?
Right.
So as soon as the door closed, and he started on the men's side, as
Mhm.
soon as that door closed, I was sitting there at the desk and I heard somebody say, Chrissy, open the door. And it was Corey's voice. I mean, it was as plain as day. And I turned and I said, Corey? And it said it again. It said, Chrissy, open the door. And I said, Corey. No response. And then it said it again. Chrissy, open the door. I said, Corey, if that's you, answer me. And nothing. Well, then probably 15 seconds later, Corey comes busting through the women's side door, which he had went down the men's, came back on the women's side because it loops around. It's like a big horseshoe type deal.
Mhm.
And he comes flinging that door open, and he's probably as white as my shirt. And I said, what happened? I said, were you messing with me? And he said, what are you talking about? I said, the moment you went through that door, I heard your voice and you were telling me to open the door. He said, Chrissy, I didn't say anything. He said, when that door shut, I went down the hall. I said, well, then somebody's mimicking your voice because I heard it just as plain as day. And he said, as soon as he took 2 steps into the hallway, everything went black.
Wow.
Black, like he couldn't see
Hmm.
black.
Wow.
So he said he hightailed it back around, went all the way down the men's side, back up the women's side, which was all dark again. Now, mind you, you've got all these rooms that all have windows, And we're not talking small windows. We're talking the huge windows in old buildings that are as big as a person,
Right.
you
So there
know.
should have been some kind of light coming through.
Exactly. Exactly. But it was not. It was not. Now this picture that was taken, of course, is at night, but there there was no light. He said it went as black could be, and he felt like somebody was following him.
Wow.
And I looked at him and I said,
Mm.
"Okay,
Hey.
we're done. We're going home. We're packing up. That's two weird things in the past 30 minutes. I'm done. I'm out. Something
Right.
is spooky and I'm just not I'm no, not today." Well, then we wake up Rachel because again, she's been sleeping this whole 2-hour ordeal. And she looks at Corey and she said, what did she say? Hey, Michael, she said, "Why were you talking to me in my sleep?" And Corey looked at her and said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "You came in here and had a conversation with me when I was sleeping." Corey said, "No, I didn't." And she said, "Yes, you
Oh
did." And
man.
Corey said, "No, Rachel, I did not." He said, "I was either with Michael and Chrissy or me and Chrissy." He said, "I never came in this room. We let you sleep," which, excuse me, which was true. And so she was like, "Well, then I don't know who was talking to me." I said, "I don't know neither, but it's probably the same person that was saying Christy opened the door."
Mm.
And I just,
Mhm.
it was such an eerie feeling. And you know how when you're in a location and you get that feeling that there's something negative and something bad there.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I had there. And
Wow.
even in the okay, so beyond that investigation, we were there and Corey was down in the basement. Again, there was a multitude of investigators there, several different teams, just friends coming together to investigate. And we were in the basement. We were one room away from the kitchen because we were going to do an EVP session with Doris. Well, for whatever reason, we were seeing shadow play in this room, so we all stopped to investigate this room. We all knew that it wasn't Doris because it was a heavy, heavy feeling. And Corey immediately got angry over nothing, like fighting mad, and you could see it across his face. Like you could see the
Hmm.
transition of his mood. And I looked at him and I said, "Corey, what is going on?" And he said, "I'm just angry. I just want to hit something right now." I said, "Okay, so I need you to sit down over here and focus on me and nothing else." So something was trying to get in to swing and shift his mood, which
Yes.
I was able
Mhm.
to bring him back to, we're not going there. But I mean, it's just things like this there always happen. We were on another investigation there where we were doing a live. We were literally live on, and it wasn't on StreamYard, but it was on our Facebook pages. Two different pages, two different paranormal groups. Um, and we were again on the men's side. Um, and I believe it was the floor with the jail cell. Um, and Corey got scratched
Yeah.
on the live. I mean, you could see the scratches forming on his arm
Wow.
as we were standing
Mm.
there on the live. And the only thing that the only thing that we had done prior to that was we did an EVP session in the chapel. We did get some feedback from what we think was the patients. Yes, I made him get it together, Stephen.
Mhm.
Listen, I will smack you with holy water 50 times if I got to. I'm just saying. So, so, but I mean, it was nothing negative that went on in the chapel, you know, but we part of the team was in there and somebody thought they saw one of my team members, Dina, and they're like, "Well, there goes Dina down on the women's side." And but it wasn't Dina
Huh.
because Dina was in the basement
Hmm.
with three other investigators. So we I don't know if whatever it was that we saw that was mimicking Dina was what scratched Corey. I don't know. Because the only other thing that we did in that moment was close a door that had been open since we got there. And it was just it was a patient room. It wasn't anything special. It wasn't a real what we would call a super active room. Like, there are
Hmm.
specific rooms within this building that you're gonna get activity in most of the time. Well, the door that he closed wasn't one of those active rooms, but for whatever reason, it ticked off whatever spirit or whatever that was mimicking Dina,
Hmm.
and it scratched the fire out of
So
him.
more
It
of a malevolent type spirit versus an evil type spirit.
Yeah, because I wouldn't say
If
I didn't think evil. I didn't think demonic. Now the thing that was crawling on the wall and came up through the floor and went through my arm, I don't know what that was. I
that sounds evil.
What
Yes.
I can tell you is that I don't think I've ever had fear like I had fear in that moment. And whatever it was,
Hmm.
it literally felt like that right side of my body was on fire.
Wow.
And I mean, it made me freeze in the moment, but move as soon as I felt like it was done coming through. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And the guys
Yeah.
listened.
I've actually
And
had that done to me, and it wasn't anything evil. It was just a spirit, but like he was behind me and all I could feel was heat, like on the back of my neck. It was like a burning heat, but it was just a spirit. So I mean, just because you feel hot or heat, I just don't think it is always evil or always a demon or something like that.
no, and I'm not gonna say that it is, but I will tell you that I've had other things shift through me and channel through me, and I didn't feel the feelings that I felt with
Hmm.
that.
Wow.
And when I say hot,
Hmm.
I mean
Yeah.
like fire, like
Yeah.
fire. Um, but I don't like to say that it's something that I can't 100% beyond a shadow of a doubt say that it is because I don't know. I don't know, but I do know that it
Yeah.
was not a happy. If it was a spirit, it was not a happy one,
Nope.
and I don't think I've
Right.
ever
And you
seen
don't
spirits
always want to
crawl.
automatically jump to the demon thing just
Oh no,
because of
no!
it
It
being
could have been an
hot or
elemental.
something like
It
that. Yeah. Yeah.
it could have been a lot of stuff,
Exactly.
which I'll readily admit. I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was.
Right. Right.
I don't think that it was demonic in nature, but what I do know is that it was not happy and it was not good, whatever it was.
Right. Right.
So, I mean, that's just
Did you go research it? Maybe to find what kind of creature it was that was walking up on the walls or anything?
well, so the team did look into this because again, I wasn't the only one who saw it. And there were some things that were suggested, but again, I'm not going to put that out there because I don't know. I don't know. I'm not somebody who's going to sit here and tell you it's 100% this when I don't know beyond a shadow of a doubt because I don't want people taking something out of context and running with it in the paranormal field and that not be what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, but
Exactly.
again, it is the only thing that I ever felt pure fear with while investigating was that one moment. I've never felt that since.
Right.
And I mean, again, it could have been elemental. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think it was a human spirit. I can say that. I don't. I'm pretty good about sensitivity and feeling what's around me and knowing what I'm feeling and knowing if it's just a spirit that's angry or, you know, just having a bad moment or stuck in a time loop or, whatever it may be. I'm usually good about picking that up when it's human spirit. When it's other stuff, I don't know. I don't have enough experience with
Hmm.
having direct experience with those things to define what it was. So, but I'm not going to say demonic because I don't know. I don't think it
Well, I mean,
was.
it's better to say that you don't know and be truthful about it
Right.
rather than just automatically jump to, oh, it's evil, it's demonic. To
Right.
me, it's better just to say you don't know because you really don't.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And I'm not going to put something out there as fact that I can't prove to be fact. I'm not that
Right.
type of investigator or person. But the picture we're looking
Well,
at, so
I was
remember, go ahead.
I was just gonna Steve. I think it's Steve had made a comment earlier, and it was way earlier, saying that it looks like more women were committed than men. For some reason, it sounds like that way back in the day. And yes, women, I believe, were committed more often than men because it was easier, let's put it that way, to commit a woman at that time, just because men were uh I don't want to say more powerful, but women were to be submissive to a man at that time,
Yep.
and they could do the least little thing, and their husband had the ability to commit them. And plus, with it also being a poor farm, and most of the hospitals, asylums, that's kind of how they started out too, was as, poor farms, so on and so forth. And the women and children were the ones that usually had to go to a poor farm because their husband would have died, or something like that, or left them, and they were not able to take care of their farm or their house, or whatever, so they would end up in those places. So I just wanted to address his statement earlier.
No, and that's a very valid point because back in that era, you're right. Women were essentially second class citizens. It was the man who
Yes.
spoke for the woman at every given moment. And if a man said, "Well, my wife is
Yep.
crazy," then they took him at face value, and she could be committed with based on just that.
Yep.
You had people that were
Yep.
hospitalized that really didn't have mental illness.
Yeah.
And then you talk about people who truly did have mental illness, and then they did experiments on them and made them even more mentally ill than they were when they
Worse.
came
Hmm.
in. I mean, and I'm not going
Yep.
to say that every hospital was like that, but most state hospitals were shut down because of that, because of the abuse and the neglect and the experiments that they were doing that were just inhumane on the people who were there.
Yeah, and most of the time they didn't have the staff. They had a staffing shortage. They would have, shortages on, food, clothing, beds, because they would get overran. They would have people in floors. I mean, that was just unfortunately, the reality of somebody who lived in an asylum or was committed, to an asylum. It was just not, we think today is bad, at a mental hospital, but it is nothing compared to the way it
What it
was.
was. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, because they would stick them in a padded room. They would put them in straight jackets. They would put them in restraint chairs on the regular. And I'm not saying that
Yeah,
that isn't
and the
wrong.
sad thing is that animals nowadays, are treated better than what mentally ill people were treated in the 1800s. And that's just so sad.
Very,
Yes.
very.
Sad.
It's and you can't take away from the fact that I think some people did it on purpose just to be cruel.
Oh yeah.
What
Yeah.
did he just say about Jason? I can't. Hang on. Let me get off this screen. Could you imagine if Jason ever told what to do and what you can't do? Jesus, hell would have no fury. Listen, so he don't tell me what to do, period. But I mean, it's a mutual respect thing, Stephen.
Oh yeah? Hey baby, you better stay on that podcast. I got mind control over you.
Listen to him. He ain't got mind control. He ain't got mind control. He hates that I can read him when he's
Mm-mm.
outside and I'm in the house. I'm just saying.
Jason, just sit over there and be a good little boy.
He laid his head back down.
That's
Oh,
how it should be.
that's right. That's right. But I mean, really, truly, it's it's a matter of the era and the generation that was in this
Hmm.
building, you know, and just
Oh yeah.
they actually there's an attic area there, which I couldn't find pictures on that, and I don't know why because I had video of that. But anyhow, so there's an attic area where you can actually have like birthday parties and weddings to this
Wow.
day. Now listen, I
Really?
know we all as paranormal investigators think it would be cool to have, a wedding or a big party at a haunted location, but
Yep.
I don't know that I would do that there. Just saying. And it's hot up there. So you better choose a winter wedding if you're going to get
Yeah.
married there. Super hot. Super super hot.
I
What did
bet.
Chris
Yeah.
say? Crystal Woodard does
Mm-mm.
that same shit to me, Jason. I feel you, brother. Jason knows his place, Steven. Behave.
You got a
I'm
band
I'm still
together?
having to teach Steven every day. You'd think after 20 some odd years he'd freaking know by now, but no.
No, you got to teach them, and they don't listen. I mean, it's like, really? It's simple.
I
It's
know.
simple. Just listen. Just listen. Oh, he's
That's the
getting out of
problem, the
bed.
listening problem. Oh
Well,
no.
first of all, I don't get trained. I'm
Jason, go
trained to
away.
listen.
Just get back over there in your bed. Just go. Just go on now. You know better. You know better. Go on now.
Oh, see? See? You see
Oh,
that
sucking
gentle
up
kiss?
now. Hmm.
Because he knows.
Oh, good
Hey,
Lord.
Jenny. How are you? I can't. Not this show.
Oh my God.
I was being family
I
friendly.
can't.
Bad,
It is
Jason.
not
Bad.
family friendly.
You need a
That's the
spray bottle.
chihuahua in him. I can't with this man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You're
Oh
gonna have to get
goodness.
you a spray bottle.
I'm she did Jenny, oh Jesus, take the wheel. I can't. I can't. Okay.
Mm-mm. No,
Probably because
Steven, you don't ever listen.
take some
That's the
Benadryl.
problem. I keep
Take some
telling
Benadryl.
him I'm gonna get him some hearing aids. He's almost 102 years old, and hearing aids are about time.
Did you say he's almost 102?
I
Yes.
don't listen. I
Oh,
don't listen. Howard complains all the time. I don't listen.
that's
I can,
okay,
I can,
Jason.
like,
Well, that's
I
okay.
annoy him. It's like he talks and goes in
That's
one ear and
okay.
out the other
It's selective hearing.
all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we got to train them correctly. That's what I keep telling Jason. He's a work in progress for a future husband. I'm just saying. He said, I got you, Hunter, too. Oh, goodness.
You ain't got
But no,
nothing. You
this
ain't got
location,
nothing.
guys, this location is just if you've never been and you want to see a place that's active nonstop, basically this is where you want to go.
I want to see a place that's active.
Yeah, this definitely is one of those. They also own two other locations in the county. One is new. I've never been. Um, and then there is another mansion in town that they own. Now I've been there. Like I took a tour. Like when we were at Randolph, he's like, "Hey, so we got this new location that we're still working on. It's not you can't go and investigate, but do you want us to take to show you?" Now it's available. We just haven't investigated it. But so he took us through a
Mhm.
quick tour through that. So I have seen the building and I have seen other people investigate at it on live podcasts. But I mean, it's definitely they now have a group package thing where you can do like all three locations for one price, which is cool. I mean, so if you get a really big group,
Yeah.
you could split it. Hey, we're gonna do here for these 3 hours. We're gonna do here for these 3 hours, and we're gonna do here. You know what I'm saying? Because it's almost like
Right.
I believe you can get the building at like 5 or 6 p.m. and you don't have to be out till like 7 or 8 a.m. So it's a huge
Now,
amount
is
of time.
there a chapel also on the grounds of the asylum?
There used to be. There's not anymore.
Okay, that's what it is. Okay.
Yeah, there used to be. And there's also a big barn there, which technically right behind that big barn is the unmarked graves of individuals who
Hmm.
were there. Um, but that part of the land was bought by the city and they use it for training purposes for their police law enforcement. So like they have a firing range and stuff back there. So we're not even allowed back there, and technically we're not even supposed to be at the barn or at those graves. But
Mm.
I mean, we were respectful and there wasn't any police officers back there at the time. So but we wanted to pay
Right.
our respects to the unmarked graves. Stephen,
Now that
what do
picture
you?
that you had up earlier, what was that?
Which one?
The bedroom
I
one.
think it had like red carpet. No, no,
Yeah.
no, no,
Oh,
no. The one
okay.
that
So let's see. Da, 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 da. Let's see.
I'm sorry, I kind of
Um,
interrupted answering
that's all right.
that comment.
I
Or
think I think this is the room you're talking. No, this is probably the other room. Share this one, Jackie.
Oh wow.
So when you first walk into Randolph, you've got, like I said, it's like a huge foyer. Okay, so you've got the desk, and you got those two doors that lead to the men's and women's side. You got a staircase that you can go upstairs to hit the second floor from that main section. Well, you've got what I would call a meeting room to the
Uh-huh.
left, which is basically our safe room and where we keep all of our equipment. Then you've got the kitchen just past there. Then you've got, and it's a makeshift kitchen, like it wasn't a kitchen back when it was a sanatorium.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
but then you've got on the right hand side in that main foyer, you've got two other rooms. This is one of those rooms. The other picture that I had shared is the other room. So, and these rooms look like family rooms to me. Like, they're bringing their family in. They want to sit down, talk to them, and it not be so
Mhm.
formal, like sitting at a table in a meeting. But there's like couches and there's old antique things. In this picture, you got the wheelchair that would have been, back in the day. Equipment that was there. There are some original beds in that building, but you can't, of course you can't get on them because they don't want them to break, because they're so old. But
Right.
so these are basically just big huge rooms that are set up, and we think that one probably was like doctor office area, but nobody has ever confirmed that, so that's just an assumption. So I don't want to put it out there that that's actually what it is,
Yeah.
um
Right.
because that's just the feel that you get when you're in that room.
This
But
room right here.
uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. So, and then like I said, that other one that has the couches, that to me is like where they would bring the families in and talk to them. Or I guess if this was a doctor's office, then that could have been like the waiting room type deal
Yeah.
for that. Because basically, once patients went in there, they never typically came out. So
Hmm.
that's their home. So they don't go anywhere. They don't have any money. They don't have any means to get money because most of them, their family didn't come back and didn't visit, didn't participate in their care. Um, what's he saying?
I'm about getting on old things and they break.
I can't with him. Um, so hey Shannon.
Hi,
So
Shannon.
I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about, ladies?
Just about how they brought them in and they didn't really
Yeah,
participate in their care or
it
anything
could be a
like that.
family room.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So I would assume that because they were poor, had no means, that when they did need to go to the doctor and did need to be seen, it's going to be there. You know what I'm saying? So they're not going anywhere. They're not leaving site to get any type of medical care.
Hmm.
There's also rumors that there was a patient that was this is a mixed story and we haven't confirmed it, but so the story that we were told was a patient had jumped from a second story window and committed suicide. Now, with that being said,
Mm-hmm.
the story that we got from this person's family member um said that they were pushed. That now we were trying to
Hmm.
set up getting this family member there with us on an investigation to see what kind of EVPs and things that we could get out of the individual. But that never came to light. So we haven't been able to get them there to actually connect to their loved one to see, did they jump or were they pushed.
Wow.
So I think that'll be interesting if we can get them there and find out that true story
Yeah.
on what really happened.
Well, in either
Or
case, I mean, you could see that happening, at a place like that. You could see them committing
Yeah.
suicide or them being pushed.
definitely. And let's talk about the medication that they put people back on back in that day. They put them on things that
Oh,
they
yeah.
didn't really need to be on. You put somebody on psych meds that doesn't need them, and it is going to make them clinically insane.
Yes.
It's going to do
Right.
things to their brain that don't need to be done because they don't have that problem. So, I know
Right.
back in the day, lithium was one of the main psychotic drugs that they used, and that's not a good drug. Even for those who are
No.
mentally ill, it's just not.
Kevin said, "When did this place close
Nowadays,
up?"
that is kind of like a last resort of a drug.
Kevin, I think in the 80s, but I'd have to look to see.
And then it became like a paranormal investigation place where people can go and investigate, right? Because it
Correct.
had it had a lot of deaths in it, right?
It
Like
it
a
it
lot of
does,
people.
and you can even rent it if you don't want to investigate. Like I said, you can rent it to do events in. You can rent it to do weddings in, birthday parties. Public investigations, private investigations. So you can basically rent this building out for what you want it for.
He said, Kevin,
1985, I think.
1985.
I thought it was the 80s. So, and
So
there have been paranormal television shows that have come and did overnight stays here. I believe one investigation group was there about a whole week.
I think Kevin said earlier this was on the Travel Channel. This story,
Destination
what?
Fear, I do know
Right,
was
Kevin?
there.
Today,
Destiny
he said,
today?
yeah. I think he said that earlier, right?
I think that's the
Right,
comment.
Kevin?
I think that's the comment that he said. Yeah.
Oh,
It was on the Travel Channel today.
the irony of that is so funny.
I know. I was looking at it. I put it up on the screen.
That is so crazy. Well, when I'm sharing
Was in the
photos, it
beginning.
gives me a double screen and it kind of covers up our screen for me to share the photo. So if I don't minimize that, then I don't see all the comments.
Yeah.
But that's cool. Well, I had no idea
There
they
it
were
is.
going to
Right
air
here.
that.
Right there. Kevin. This was on Travel
Yeah.
Channel today.
Neat. So see, you probably got to see them walking through the building and their investigation and the was it Destination Fear or was it Ghost Hunters? Because I think both of them went. I want to say that Josh Gates may have even been there. Destination Fear. I think they've been there twice.
Well, you were talking about feeling when that whatever it was, you felt like a burning sensation. Well,
Yeah.
apparently in 1896, when it had that fire, there actually
Mhm.
was people that died in that fire. And that's what
Right.
supposedly the unmarked graves are back behind there. So I wonder if that may have had something to do with the burning
You think
sensation that
maybe
you
it
were
was somebody
feeling.
channeling what they were feeling when they died in the fire, maybe?
Maybe.
I mean, it could very well
Wow.
be.
Very much
That's
could.
awesome. I need to go to a place like that. We need to come up there and go investigate that. I
Well,
want to
tell
see
Howard to get his
things like
butt to Indiana.
I want to see things like that.
We'll
I
go.
haven't I haven't experienced anything like that yet.
Really? Well, I mean, and
Except here.
each location is different. And like I said, we have different interaction and different things happen each time we go.
Yeah.
It's never really the same situation, the same scenario.
Steven said giving you their pain
And
made
that
me.
could have been.
Yeah.
And that would
Mhm.
explain the because it felt like burning. I mean, it felt like I was on fire.
Well, this right here says in 2008, the
So
day
I can.
came when the county closed the asylum and the remaining patients were transferred to other hospitals. So was it actually open until 2008?
It might have been. It might have been. I wanted maybe they were closed down in 80 something and then reopened because they had nowhere to put the patients.
Mhm.
That I would have to look into.
Maybe.
Shannon said, "I'm late for the party. What's the location?"
Randolph County Asylum in Indiana.
That was an interesting place. I bet. I mean,
It
especially
is.
the part where you said it was daylight and he walked in to the man's side and it got dark. That's
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
And it was daylight. Wow, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. You definitely see a
Crazy.
lot of
Yeah.
shadow play. You definitely get touched. When you're in the attic, the children love to play with balls, cars, spirit balls. They'll even do flashlight tag where we tell them to turn the flashlight off and on. Sometimes they do that. So we usually get a whole lot of activity there.
Yes, I did. It's, Steven said you saw the door at Savannah, Kansas at the temple. So you seen stuff before. Yeah, that was weird. Yeah, that did. I was like, oh my god. It just opened, just like my bathroom door opened. I saw that before. So,
Yep.
and I
Yep.
didn't run, Kevin.
Mm,
But that was an interesting place. I bet it was interesting
it
just to
definitely
be
is.
there.
Yeah.
It
Well,
definitely.
our time is up, and I like that. That was an interest. The reason why we do in hospitals is because it's Suicide Prevention Month. So, I mean,
Reach
Bring
out there.
awareness to it. Yeah.
Reach out there. There's always somebody listening. There's always somebody that will step in to help.
yep,
There's no
call
shame.
somebody.
There's no shame in being sad. There's no shame
Nope.
in being afraid. There's no shame in being depressed. um, reach out.
Yeah, if you
Reach
have a
out.
problem, call somebody.
Definitely.
Yes. So I enjoyed it. Everybody, thank you for coming on Hey Boo. Thank you for watching, and y'all have a great week.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.